Good day, everyone. Today we will talk about how they claim to have created life in a laboratory. Just make sure that you watch the previous videos in this series as they follow on each other. Please subscribe, like and share these videos as much as possible. Michael Behe wrote a great book that I recommend you read called Darwin's Black Box. This book shows how complex living systems really are and how it could not have been created by chance. He spends an entire chapter in this book explaining the hair on a bacteria. That little hair is attached to a motor in the skin of the bacteria. These little motors are so small that 8 million of them can fit into the cross-section of an average human hair. This little motor turns at 100,000 RPMs. I drive this vehicle in 5th gear on the highway at 120 kilometers per hour. It does 3,000 to 3,500 RPMs. This little motor does 100,000 RPMs, forwards and backwards. It can swim through his little world, the equivalent of a human being swimming 97 kilometers an hour through peanut butter. This is because the smaller things get, the greater the viscosity of the liquid it moves in becomes. This textbook says, humans probably evolved from bacteria that lived 4 billion years ago. Think about it. These guys swim 97 kilometers an hour through peanut butter. The quickest a human can swim is around 9 kilometers an hour, and that is in water. We are getting worse if evolution is true, not better. This textbook says, the history of life began about 3.5 billion years ago. How this occurred has been and will continue to be a topic for inquiry. In other words, it is okay to inquire about how life evolved, but it is not okay to inquire about whether it evolved in the first place. Miller and Urey wanted to know how the Earth and solar system had come to be. So they did an experiment, and it says that they never proved how life originated. But he did add evidence to the theory that life could have started by itself on a primitive Earth. This is a blatant lie. Miller and Urey's experiment and everybody after them made the problem much worse. See, Darwin thought that a single cell in your body was a simple sack of jelly. Now we know that cells are extremely complex, and life could not have started by chance. The origin of species was not addressed in 1859 and is still a mystery in 1998. Both the origin of life and the origin of the major groups of animals remains unknown. They don't know how life got started. But the textbooks will tell the kids that life started from non-living material. This one says, many important events occurred during the Archean era, the most important of which was the evolution of life. Progress from complex molecules to even the simplest living organism was a very long process. Yes, let's put time in there. That'll help. This one says, the first living cell emerged between 4 and 3.8 billion years ago. There's no record of the event. So, we know it happened, kids, and you will be tested on this, but there's no proof. The first self-replicating systems must have emerged in this organic soup. That is a lie. There's no evidence from any of the sciences to prove that life got started from non-living material. During his confession, and please see my previous videos on the subject, Haeckel said, spontaneous generation must be true, not because it had been proven in the laboratory, but because otherwise it would be necessary to believe in a creator. So did the scientists really create life in a lab? This is the experiment that they did. Miller and Urey took gases. They took methane, ammonia, water vapor, and hydrogen, circulated it through some gas tubes, added some sparks in there to simulate lightning, and at the bottom some red goo developed, which they filtered off and saved what was left. They said the goo was rich in amino acids. This is a lie. It was not rich in amino acids, okay? It's interesting to notice that they excluded oxygen from the experiment. They did this because they knew that if they had oxygen, anything they created would oxidize. You know, like the apple turns brown if you cut it open and leave it for a while, or how metal rusts. They did not want any oxygen there because it would destroy any life that evolved. The problem is, if you don't have oxygen, you can't have ozone. Ozone blocks UV light, and UV light destroys ammonia. Ammonia is one of the gases. So, if you don't have oxygen, life can't evolve. And if you do have oxygen, life can't evolve. It is a serious problem for their experiment. By the way, the Earth always had oxygen, okay? Even if you believe the dumb geologic column, the lowest layers have oxygen. This guy says, what is the evidence for a primitive methane ammonia atmosphere on Earth? There is no evidence for it, but much against it. In general, we find no evidence in the sedimentary distribution of the rocks that an oxygen-free atmosphere has existed at any time. But this textbook says, yes, boys and girls, back when there was no oxygen, 0% oxygen, the rocks absorbed it. The wheel's turning, but the hamster's dead, folks. And roughly 2 billion years after the origin of life, there was enough oxygen to support eukaryotes. This is pure nonsense. What Miller and Urey and everybody since did is they filtered out the product they produced. This is not what happens in nature, okay? What they actually made was 85% tar, 13% carboxylic acid. Both of those are toxic to life. If you make an experiment that are 98% toxic to the other 2% which you are trying to create, would you consider the experiment a success? What they really made was 2 amino acids in a mixture that are poisonous to eat, when there are 20 amino acids needed for life. These amino acids that they made would bond with tar and acid much quicker than with each other. Amino acids are sort of like the letters of an alphabet. Combining those letters, you can make all kinds of words, but if you get them in right order, of course. They made 2 amino acids when there are 20 needed to make proteins. And like it takes a lot of letters to make a paragraph and much more to make a whole book, it takes trillions of these amino acids in precise order to make one cell. Half of what they made were right-handed and the rest was left-handed amino acids. This creates a real problem because the smallest proteins have about 70 to 100 amino acids in precise order, all of them left-handed. DNA and RNA nucleotides are all right-handed. It's called chirality. They made a mixture. It's not going to work. They will unbond in water much faster than they will bond. And as far as anybody knows, the oceans are completely full of water. The Brownian motion will drive them further apart, not bring them together either. This experiment is a fraud. It's a lie, a fake. It did not work. Don't let them tell you they made life in a lab, because they never came even close. You see, they somehow have this idea that if you get all the molecules together and add energy, that you can end up creating life. Here's an experiment we can then do. Let's put a frog into a blender and turn it on. What you will have in a few seconds is frognog. You will have all the molecules required to make a frog together in one place. Now let's add some energy. Microwave it, zap it with electricity, nuke it, do with it what you will for thousands or millions of years. How long do you think it will take before the frog is reassembled? And there is no such thing as the tree of life. They put this in the textbooks like, yes, boys and girls, life evolved from bacteria billions of years ago. It's in all the textbooks. It's pure propaganda. There's absolutely no evidence for it. Even Mary Leakey said that all those trees of life with their branches of our ancestors, that's a lot of nonsense. Stephen Gould said, the evolutionary tree that adorn our textbooks are not the evidence of fossils. This textbook says, all the many forms of life on Earth today are descendant from a common ancestor found in a population of primitive unicellular organisms. There's no such thing as a primitive unicellular organism. And then it says, no traces of those events remain. So yes, boys and girls, we know what happened, but there's no proof. This one says, the humans, the birds and the crocodiles have a common ancestor. Isn't that the impression that they are trying to get across? Look, people, everything inside the big circle are religious speculation, pure nonsense and lies. They may want to believe that, but that is not science. The Bible says, but whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depth of the sea. Unfortunately, this is all we have time for today. Please like, subscribe, and share as much as possible to help my channel grow. We have a Skype Bible study session at 6 p.m. South African Standard Time every Sunday night. If you are interested to join, please pop me an email. You can find mine in the description. Don't forget to leave a donation. Instructions on how to do so will follow. Thanks again, and God bless. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy our videos, please leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to click the bell icon to be notified of our next video. You can help us create better videos by leaving a donation on Patreon. The link is in the description. Thank you. We hope to see you next time.